Second.
You tell me when. We're good. Okay. All right. Good evening and welcome to the North Bend City Council work session for June 24th. Here at 4:33 in the council chambers. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order and begin with our roll call. If our acting city recorder, Ms. Stephanie, can help us with that.
Councilor Jones.
Present.
Councilor Hamilton.
Present.
Councilor Garvoden.
Present.
Mayor Engelke.
Here.
Councilor Schultz.
Here.
Councilor Nora. Present.
Okay, all right. So since we're all here, we're going to go ahead and change up the agenda. Well, we'll go ahead and move into public comments, and then we'll move the after public comments, we'll move number 4, our South Coast Equity Coalition presentation, till after we review the council agenda, so we can have give them time to get their presentation geared up. So is there anybody here for public comment this evening?
There's no public comment.
All right, well then that will go ahead and we'll jump forward and come back to it and take a look at reviewing the city council agenda. I know our city administrator is out of town, but we have our finance director here. And if you can just kind of help me take a look at some of the things that we have on the agenda for tomorrow evening.
Sure, I'll walk you through it.
Yep.
We're gonna call to order, pledge of allegiance, do a roll call. Ceremonial has a Pride Month proclamation, Juneteenth proclamation, and then a 10 years of service award for Scott Dubasar for the Streets Department. We've got our number 4, we've got our consent calendar, which we've got approval of the minutes from June 11th, 2024, approval of the minutes from June 17th of 2024.
Mayor. All right, yep, go ahead and continue on.
And then authorization to repair street department mower on the consent agenda.
Okay, is there anybody have anything that they want to pull from the consent calendar now?
I noticed looking through that the minutes for June 17th. There's on the vote where we voted for the dock repairs, that there's a motion and a second, but there's no recorded vote.
Okay, and so there's a comment, Stephanie, that do you want to go ahead? I don't know if you caught that, but in the minutes, Councilor Nordoff is noting that there's a first and a second, but no recorded vote. So do you want to make that adjustment? Would you like that in an email or? So is that, so you're making a suggested
Edit.
and an edit to the minutes, correct? Okay,
So I can make a motion with the vote added in, and I think it was unanimous, and and then somebody will second it and we'll vote on it. That'll be it.
And Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I think that staff can make that change and get a corrected version of those minutes before tomorrow night, so that you can just pass the whole consent calendar as presented.
okay,
Can we? We have 2 key people out.
I think we
Can
can
we
do
actually
that.
make it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we can do that. We know Macy's out, we can still contact her and make sure that
Okay.
gets, if she can help us with
Do
it.
the best.
so we'll look to make the correction to those minutes and then update them for us to be able to accept in the consent calendar. Okay, perfect. Anything else that needs to be taken out of the consent calendar? Okay, and then it looks like after public comment, we've got some business Oregon project completion report.
Correct. So we have a public hearing for the closeout of a CBDG grant that was from 2022. It's been extended a couple of times. It took some time to get all of the money dispersed. We're up against that now where we'll have something close to the full 500,000 dispersed by the end of June. And so this is fulfilling one of those requirements to hold a public hearing to allow for public input about the results and of the efforts that were for this initiative. And it's really to present the results of how we did with getting those monies out for their intended purposes. And it was for rent assistance and for utility assistance.
Okay, perfect. Any questions from the council on that? Okay. The number 7 is the Coos County Homeless Response Advisory Board. You'll see in your packet that the city administrator and I are coming up over our 24-month appointment to that committee. And so we are rotating off and looking to see if there's any, we could fill those positions with people from the council or staff or community members in North Bend. So we're going to see how many volunteers from this group, if they're interested in that. They meet about once a month. Right now, they're meeting at, I believe, 1:30 or so. Well, it actually just got moved recently till about 3:30 in the afternoon on Thursdays. And you don't have to all volunteer right now. But so think about
I
that.
can't.
You've got school during that time.
I'm contracted until 3:45.
Okay. So think about that. If there's anybody who's interested, we are looking for, so the county, Coos Bay and North Bend each have 2 people that have been sitting on that committee. And again, the city administrator and I are feeling really good. You can see the letter that's attached in the packet about how it began. And this is our coordinated response. We have the interim governmental agreement with Coos County for the coordinated office of homeless outlined in the initial advisory board members would provide input on hiring the executive director. There has been a changeover. So the current executive director, Andrew Brainer, is moving on. So he's done his piece that he wanted to, which was get the office up and running. Now it's kind of taking on a little bit of a different type of role. And so they're looking for, they're going to be posting that position. And this is to specifically, the office is working with the $1 million from the Oregon legislator under House Bill 4123. And so again, we're seeking, the council would like to appoint 2 representatives from North Bend to ensure the continuity on the Homeless Response Advisory Board. So think about that. And then,
They're doing a really good job.
well, I believe in getting everybody involved. And so I think that we'll go ahead and there's a few people in the community who have reached out and had some interest, but I wanted to kind of come to the council first. I know that is it is a difficult time of the day to meet. But think about it tonight and we don't have to make decisions now. And if there are people in the community that you want to bring forward, we can talk to them about how to apply for a committee.
Well, and one of our goals for the city manager was for him to take something off his plate.
Yes,
Which one of the things
yeah.
that we said.
Yeah,
We could, that was the one thing he did mention, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we should pull them up. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it doesn't have to be a council person.
It could
can
be-
a council person. It doesn't have to be.
North Bend has 2 appointments. So like, for example,
So,
how
but we
our,
have to do 2.
um,
That's our.
I think we should. I think we should. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I've spoken with a person in the community who's interested in being on this. And so I was curious, what the next steps would be for that person.
So I need to double check with the staff, but for our other committees, there's an application. And I'm not sure if we actually, right now at this point, if you know anybody, you can direct them to me
Okay.
in my email. And then I can take a look and see if we're going to have the actual application process, or it might even be just a conversation, and then we make the appointments.
Yeah, and I had a couple of concerns about talking to anybody about this, not in a bad way, but just because, this is a little different from, say, us getting someone for the Parks Committee. And so what I was mainly worried about was I didn't want to have a discussion with someone and encourage them to jump through hoops because I thought they'd be a good asset when I just have a really sketchy understanding of the choices that they'll be making in this moment, what I understood is that this is mostly about a small pool of grant funds that we have towards housing. And that's the main set of discussions that they have. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yeah, I would and this is part of our packet would be a good letter to show somebody, because it really outlines the beginning here. It talks about how it's really, it's more than just that, because it's the Homeless Response Advisory Board. It's it's the collaboration of North Bend, Coos Bay, and the county, and how we, as a larger community,
Okay.
are going to have a coordinated response to the
Okay.
homeless crisis. And so, the board was created, and we actually had hired a consultant to put together a strategic plan. Then that executive director, that is a hired position, is to carry out that strategic plan. And so one of the things that when Andrew Brenner was in that position, he kind of established the office, started getting the local stakeholders involved. And on his last day, I said, one of the things that I gave him kudos for, I remember looking around thinking, we had never had all the faith-based leaders together at a table that I was aware of. And so they have made really some good progress about beginning that coordinated response. And there is some grant money to manage that advisory board would help direct the executive director. But I would say it's much more, it's larger than just that. And when we had received the grant, the money was for 2 years. And then after that, but it was a 5-year commitment for the three governing bodies, Coos Bay, North Bend, and the county, to continue that work. Because really before this, it was a lot of people doing some good work, but in silos, and
Okay.
it's bringing it all together. If we were to find 2 people that could represent North Bend, and then we would have to look, since if they weren't people that were sitting on the council, have them come back and report back out to us.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that. So I know there's a website. Is there a strategic plan that's
Uh-huh.
published? Yeah, there is. Okay, so
Yeah.
that should be on there somewhere.
Yeah, and I would say a couple places to look, probably on our North Bend website. We have a section for
Things.
all of
Okay.
this and these house bills.
Okay,
And I bet the strategic plan is there. If not, then I know it would be on that group.
okay.
I was looking at our finance director.
Yeah,
'Cause I thought he was
well,
gonna
I
have-
was just gonna say, if it gives any other additional like scope of work at all, the size of the grant, it's the balance of state grant. And it
Yeah.
has very specific requirements of things that can be spent on. Rapid rehousing is the main one.
Okay,
And it's about 1.9 million. That's kind of the pool, at least, that exists right now for the funding that's coming from the state.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for people who are interested in this. This is a 2-year appointment, but the span of this committee is 5 years or more possibly.
Yeah.
And that person, it is a voluntary position,
Mhm.
so they don't have to stay or not, but they could continue on if they wanted.
Yep.
and,
We could even consider a 1-year appointment,
Okay,
like our other committees.
but it's typical, or well, this is. written-
We stayed on for 2 years as
Okay.
advisory, or as the really committee was getting its
Okay.
feet under them, but probably 1 year is more appropriate.
Okay. And so the expectations are around the biggest monetary decisions are about rapid rehousing. And that's grant money from the state. There's an additional piece to that about simply coordinating the various efforts.
Mhm.
For example, talking to all of the faith-based players in the area, if they want to join, whatever.
Well, the executive director will do that
Oh,
work,
exactly.
and there had been an executive director with 2 part-time people.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna look when if they decide, since they're hiring out for a new executive director, if that will be restructured.
Right, okay,
And so the committee members are just the advisory governing body.
okay.
Then,
What was it like to be in the committee meetings? Are they similar to this, where you get an agenda, you
Yeah.
get some items, okay,
Mhm.
you get a pack beforehand,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, all right. If there's no more questions on that, then we'll take a look at, the next item was the award of bid of pump station 4. I don't know if Mr. Dunham wanted to speak to that. Mhm. You've got 2 things back to back here on the agenda. Pump
Back
station.
to back. Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, we advertised for bid in the VJC and the World newspaper on this particular project. This is part of our EPA funds allocated 750,000 for this project. We only received 1 bid. It was above the engineer's estimate at 857,000, if I remember correctly. However, of any of the projects, this pump station is one of those I would say is held together with Band-Aids and bubble gum. It's a 75-year-old pump station. The piping's rotten.
So what was the life
Everything.
of that? 50 or 70 years? And it's 75 now.
It was built in 1944.
Okay.
So it is. The rest of ours are much more modern, but this is not one I would carry over to another year. We were worried about carrying it over to this year. And therefore staff recommends we award the bid, even though our other option was to rebid it. I wouldn't rebid it this year. It'd be in January, which we may or may not get a better price. But it's in such poor condition, I wouldn't want to try to keep it running for another year.
Do we have a place to get the $110,000?
We have that in our overall wastewater capital fund. We have both contingency and we actually have $1.8 million budgeted for sewer repair systems, which we've committed 327,000. And the next one's you're going to commit another 1,253,000 potentially on that. So we have money in that capital.
Like you're saying, in 75 years, this is probably the best we're getting at this moment, and so it's probably best to pick this. And stuff.
Yeah, it was fully advertised
For the appropriate amount of time.
for appropriate amount of time, and it is funded by EPA. You know, our prior bid on the sewer was a little bit under our engineer's estimate, not that much, 23,000. This one's over 110, so.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Anything else from you?
That's it.
Okay. So that was,
Now it's sanitary sewer rehabilitation.
yeah.
So that is Broadway, which everybody in town's gonna love, because
Great.
it's 1,200 feet up Broadway and 300 feet down Clark going to Kingsview Christian. It will be work, and part of the ask, in case you didn't catch it in the read, is because that's outside our normal work hours. Our state highway permit says we will do the work between 6 PM and 7 AM, which is exactly opposite of our work hours we allow normally,
Mhm.
which means we need a council permission to work outside the normal work hours. The good news is there are 2 residential structures directly fronting this segment, which is a lot better than many other places.
Yeah.
It's commercial. We'll work with McDonald's, that type of thing, but this is Newmark to Lewis. And Newmark, rumor has it, Newmark and Broadway's busiest intersection in Coos County. So we will be performing this at night. Because it is state highway, this was also overbid. Our estimate was 960,000. State highway added some key little elements, one of them, which I know cost us 127,000 on this project, but on the permit itself, which we got the permit in May. So when we budgeted, we weren't aware of their new stipulations. But my opinion is the state highway permit cost us, it might have been a little bit over. We got 2 bidders on this one, but cost us about $250,000 of conditions they put on the construction. And that isn't the night work. It had to do with, we have to pour concrete, CDF, lean concrete, in the trench, which in the past, we've always just been able to bring it to surface with rock, but which means you gotta let it cure for 2 days before you can, and plate it, put temporary plating, all these type of things. And the concrete alone's 127,000 in the bid, so moving the plates to cover it and let it cure is also not cheap. Staff does recommend on this that we award again, even though it's over our estimate. We believe the permit that requirements the state put on us have cost us that additional funds, so that's the reason for us being 25% over our estimate instead of maybe 1 or 2%.
Okay.
Good to know.
once it's awarded, how long do you think, when does the work begin?
Pump station 4 submittals will be, once you award, will be about 20 days to get contracts back and signed. Submittals and pump delivery will be about 4 months, so they'll be building pump station 4, which won't disturb too many people. That's out on the airport, right next to the main hangar behind. It's in an operation area. Probably late September, early October before work starts.
Oh, that late.
Broadway will also happen later in the year, although they may start a portion of it early in August, or not early in August, near the end of August. But the contractor has already informed me because of schedule. He will not be complete till mid-November.
Okay. Since we have you here and we're talking about Broadway, do you know the date of when the gas station there will open up?
It's getting close. I'm assuming it will final around the first week of July after the 4th. When they'll actually open, I haven't heard any rumors yet. I can't tell you. So.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Well, that takes care of Ralph Dunham's item. Then we're gonna move on to the number 10 is the purchase of the multi-use utility vehicle. Didn't know if our park superintendent wanted to speak to that or if that was,
I can speak to it a little bit.
or you, okay.
Yeah, so there was actually a kind of a multi-use vehicle budgeted in next year's budget. When we looked at our resources that were still appropriated for this year, there's plenty of funds in our equipment and construction fund, so we contacted the let's see, North Bend Power Sports, and there's a picture of the actual vehicle on page 36. It's kind of a multi-use in that it could be used for our Main Street functions and our different events. It will greatly assist staff in moving equipment for those events, saving multiple trips. It's also going to be upfitted, I believe, for use for public safety. So if fire, police have to use this vehicle in downtown or perhaps even at the school, they would be able to use this vehicle for that as well.
Wow.
So it's asking for approval for this item, was what we've been items.
Good.
All right. Okay, all right. Well, I think that pretty much is the main things on the agenda here, huh? After that, we would go into, we don't have an executive session planned. Let's see if there's a city administrator's report.
We got
I think Councilor Hamilton will have a great July Jubilee Committee, Special Events Committee update.
no,
Okay.
yeah.
It's been taking a lot of notes at our meetings.
Down to the wire.
And then council comments, other business and adjournment. And we don't have any other business planned, I think, at this point. So, okay, all right. Well, then we'll go back to our work session agenda. And we have a presentation tonight from the South Coast Equity Coalition. So did we work out the IT?
Yeah, we can get it. Hold on.
Okay, so Jaden, if you want to come on forward, we've got 2 chairs up here if you guys want to join us. And there's microphones.
Great.
We've got you scheduled for a 10-minute presentation, I believe.
So I'm gonna get this pulled up and then you can use, once the PowerPoint's up,
Okay.
you can use the mouse to click
Cool.
through it. So I'll give you just a second.
And I don't know if you want to introduce yourself to the.
Sure, yes, yes, yes. Oh, oh, I did not know that she was controlling the. Where's the mouse? There we go. Right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then if you click,
Yes.
okay,
Here.
Who left you?
There we go. No,
okay. Hold on. I'll put a timer on.
being efficient.
Let's hope. Okay. All right. Well, hey, thank you all for allowing us to come in and speak and talk about the Regional Health Equity Coalition. My name is Jaden Ruff. I am the director of the South Coast Health Equity Coalition. We are a regional we are a regional health equity coalition serving Coos and Curry County. And sometimes we dip into Crescent City when they need support down there. And
I'm Zaria Hamilton. I am a reproductive justice advocate and gender friendly care advocate for the South Coast Equity Coalition. I wasn't expecting to be sitting here. I
Yeah.
was gonna be taking pictures, so.
hey, no. And so I do have a presentation, but I recognize that y'all also received some packets. The packets are our needs assessment, which, thank you, as y'all were talking about the homeless coalition, you know, strategic plans help inform the work and keep us on track. And so a part of our Regional Health Equity Coalition, we are led by communities of color, and they are our priority population. So we work and advocating on behalf of Black, Indigenous and people of color across Coos and Curry County. And I think our communities are really unique where that is not just the communities that we work with and support. A lot of times we are working with community members, any community members that feel like they are on the fringes of community. So like the Homeless Coalition, I'm very familiar with that because we work alongside Curry's Homeless Task Force and very acquainted with the one that is happening here as well. And so I just wanted to come introduce ourselves officially to the city of North Bend. And when I'm a resident of North Bend, so it's really cool to be here. And our office just actually moved. We were working in Coos Bay, and we just got a new office in North Bend, so that's pretty awesome. So we always look at setting the table, how to provide contact for everyone. So our mission is to empower diverse groups to become involved in developing unique, culturally appropriate solutions. A lot of that is asking community members, how would you like us to show up? And so if you flip through the pages of our needs assessment, you'll see we did that. A lot of our work is a community-centered approach, always, one, being okay with the trust building application. And sometimes that takes a little bit of years, you know? I remember when I first started this work and we were engaging in Curry, and maybe like 7 months after having this community meeting, once a month at 5:30 at the library, did I feel like the community finally started trusting me. They said, no one's on Zoom, can we turn it off? And I turned the Zoom off and it just opened up and I walked away like, okay, like they trust me, you know? And so that is really a part of a lot of the work that we do here. But not only are we a regional health equity coalition, we're one of 9 regional health equity coalitions across the state of Oregon, including the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. And regional health equity coalitions were community-driven cross-sector groups that are not part of the government and coordinated care organizations. So we get to kind of touch on topics and advocate in different ways. A lot of folks look at our work as root cause work. You know, so yeah, we may get group funding, but it's very much so grassroots and getting funding straight to communities. What we do, so coalitions, we work by meeting communities that are underrepresented and underserved by government and other systems of power, where they're at. We also amplify their voices in local and state government. So even though it is grassroots work that we do, we advocate on a local level, state, regional level, and also state level. And so when we hear the words accountability, like who are we accountable to? I'm accountable to communities, especially when they share their stories with me, to go in spaces where we can affect policy and systems change and advocate on behalf of that. We also offer leadership development and capacity building with community members, not only with community members, but also community organizations serving our community members. So that looks like partnerships with Waterfall Community Health Center, Oregon Coast Community Health Center. We also host an annual South Coast Diversity Conference where it really centers around anti-racism, but really putting some context with what that actually means. And I know a lot of folks, we start looking at what health equity, and you always equate that means adequate adequate healthcare. But health equity has to do with before people even reach the doctor's office. You know, health equity can happen when you're shopping in a grocery store if you feel safe. Health equity happens when you have pride organizations or pride celebrations in our community, you know, same thing like this past week was Juneteenth. It was pretty awesome. We celebrated Juneteenth for the whole week. And it wasn't just about our Black community, it was about our overall community and what it looks like when we collectively come together. So we have to always clarify, like, health equity doesn't just equal healthcare. And while this work is root cause work. It talks about our communities that we serve. We are led by queer and Black and Indigenous and people of color organizations, but we also center our Latinx, Hispanic communities, immigrant communities, our people living with disabilities, low-income populations, and also rural populations. So on a state level, I think sometimes Coos and Curry are always kind of left out of the conversation when it comes to state advocacy. And it is our role as a Regional Health Equity Coalition to make sure that we come in and fill up those spaces. You know, a part of this work is also reminding ourselves of who are we bringing with us. How do RECs work? So we talk about collective impact and principles to encourage and address systemic barriers to healthcare and other social determinants of health issues. RECs have a leadership body. So my leadership council is right now 95% communities of color. I think a lot of times when I've been reached out to and are like, hey, can you, we're trying to diversify our leadership team. Jaden, would you like to join our board? And what I make sure that I do is identify folks for their wonders, their talents, you know, and not just the 51%. But it also is kind of centering people that aren't necessarily thought of being at the table or invited to the table. So making sure that people have opportunities. And I think from hearing the conversation around the Homeless Coalition, resourcing that advisory committee, you know, that's another thing, because I think we've been advisory committee to death a little bit, you know. So it's like, how do we compensate people for providing their talents, their gifts, but then also how close are they to actually being able to make change happen, you know. And so and then also each coalition, we work together. We're right now working on introducing a Regional Health Equity Coalition bill in the long session that will expand the Regional Health Equity Coalition so more statewide. Because right now we cover Coos and Curry counties, and there's only like two Regional Health Equity Coalition that covers 3 counties. But with the expansion, we're hopefully going to add 5 more Regional Health Equity Coalitions across Oregon, and then expand the actual budget as well. So yeah, we were a brainchild of Oregon Health Authority, and they decided to invest resources into prioritizing communities of color within Oregon. I don't know if you're familiar with the exclusionary laws that Oregon once had, but that also shows up in today with how communities of color navigate through systems, you know. And one of the reasons why we have Juneteenth in our community is because our coastal community has the only documented case of a lynching. His name was Mr. Alonzo Tucker. And if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for his shoulders that we stand on, we would not necessarily have Juneteenth in our community. And so because of him, we have spaces like Soul Food Sunday. Soul Food Sunday is a space led by our Black communities. They identified that in the needs assessment is that folks didn't feel safe, you know. And so we know when you have representation, you start seeing people that look like you, that talk like you, that have some shared experience like you, and we create spaces for them to just gather. You know, sometimes we talk about hard stuff, but I think another part of anti-racism work is also identifying joy. And so Soul Food Sunday and happens, Zaria, attend Soul Food Sunday. And what that has started was we've launched now a Soul Food Sunday in Brookings. It also launched the Black Student Union at Marshall High School. And because of Juneteenth, we should be relaunching engaging Brookings Harbor High School to launch their Black Student Union as well. Oh, I'm almost out of time. But, and not only that, we also support the Latinx Culture Club and the Native American Culture Club as well we started with Coos Bay School District, but we've totally been branching out. And it's really that trust building as well, you know, when students are navigating through hard times at schools, they hold us accountable and we're able to go in and say, hey, what's going on? You know, how can we support this? How can we wrap around versus having people and community members leave the community? So that's Soulful Sunday. But yeah, we also work with the Housing Authority. So I'm the chair of the Housing Authority for Coos and Curry County, and we just wrapped up our needs assessment for the Housing Authority to bring the Bangor School Housing Project back into the community. And a part of facilitating, I love data. The part of facilitating listening sessions is that we get to be responsive, especially when we are in places of leadership, right? We get to hear the things and say, okay, how can I influence change? And so the cool thing about the Housing Authority's impacts report was we're not releasing it to the public until we follow back up with community members and say, hey, did we get it right? Are we telling your stories correctly? You know, what are some things that you would like us to put in there? What are some things that you want us to pull out before we censor the community at large? We want to make sure that we are intentional with the work. So I'll leave y'all with this. So part of our coalition, we're not a coalition of one, we're really mighty, but we have some coalitions within our coalition, which is Southern Orange Coast Pride and Coos Hispanic Allies. And I also wanted to say, I'm really grateful for the city of North Bend because before this position, I was the chair of Southern Orange Coast Pride with Laura Ursig. And we've been holding Pride for the past 5 years in the city of North Bend at Boynton Park. We are looked at as one of the leading Pride organizations in the state of Oregon. And it's really cool to have these events like this where people can say, I feel safe. Oh my gosh, this is in my community, you know, so I really appreciate you all. And also I'll be back tomorrow to read the proclamation. I really appreciate you.
All right.
Any questions?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so is this on your website?
Yes, that is on the website, but I'm not a tech person.
that's okay.
But I'm like, if I got a pen and a notepad, I'm good, you know. But I wanted y'all to at least have something tangible, something that you could touch, feel, and that's a living, breathing document.
No, thank you for this. This is
Hey, you're
very
welcome.
cool.
You're welcome.
All right, any more questions?
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
well, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night then.
Yes, I'll be
Okay.
back.
All
All
right.
righty, thank you.
Okay, well, we've done number 4, we've done number 5, and number 6 is adjournment, so meeting adjourned. That's that. With what glasses? It made me sick to my stomach, so I don't wear them. But I do have them. But I think Jaden is saying she might read the proclamation tomorrow. We'll see. I'll ask her if she wants to. Hello.
Well,